Have you ever wondered what causes muscle acidosis? If so, then this video is for you. Although there are several videos out there already that deal with the misconception about what causes pH drop in exercising muscles, I felt compelled to add another one to this mix. Why? Because very recently this very question came up among AP biology teachers. First, I'm going to focus on the 3 intensities of exercise, each of which follows a different metabolic stamp. The first one is the phosphagen system. Consider an athlete doing a 100-meter dash. If we're thinking of Olympic stature, Usain Bolt, it could take less than 10 seconds. For this extremely intense form of exercise, the molecule phosphocreatine is used. The phosphate group is hydrolyzed, turning the molecule into creatine, and the phosphate group is then attached to ADP, thereby creating one molecule of ATP. A second form of relatively intense exercise involves the glycogen to lactate system. Consider Michael Phelps doing the butterfly stroke to swim 200 yards. This would involve the use of glycogen, an energy molecule stored in muscles. Upon its hydrolysis, the 6-carbon glucose sugar molecule comes free, and glycolysis results in the creation of 2 3-carbon sugars, namely pyruvate. This yields 2 ATP molecules. The third form of exercise is at a lower intensity level and simply involves aerobic respiration, as long as there is enough oxygen to be had. This oxygen serves as the final electron acceptor in the mitochondria. Overall, aerobic respiration can yield up to 38 ATP molecules, depending on how you count. But since we wish to answer the question of muscle acidosis, we are going to focus on the glycogen to lactate system. And however way you play it, the muscle is going to need a ton of ATP. The muscle requires the hydrolysis of a lot of ATP. ATP, which stands for adenosine triphosphate. This requires that a relatively weak set of bonds are broken, in particular the bond between the terminal phosphate group and the rest of the ATP molecule. And once these weak bonds are broken, stronger bonds are formed, giving us hydrogen phosphate and a hydrogen ion. And this energy release can then be used to contract the muscle fiber. Now picture not 1, but 10 ATP molecules that are hydrolyzed. This would then result in the release of 10 hydrogen ions. This is just a hypothetical scenario. In reality, there are way more ATP molecules involved, hence the potential muscle acidosis as a result of that. But why in the past have we blamed lactic acid for this? Let's figure out why by starting back again with glycogen. Glycogen requires special enzymes to turn the polymer into glucose monomers. Glucose, a 6-carbon sugar, can then be absorbed by the cell and through the pathway of glycolysis turned into 2 molecules of pyruvate, a 3-carbon sugar. This results in only a couple of molecules of ATP, so under ideal circumstances with enough oxygen present, pyruvate is transported into the mitochondrion. And with the help of the enzyme pyruvate dehydrogenase, pyruvate is converted into acetyl-CoA. If the exercise is too intense and there's not enough oxygen present, pyruvate instead is converted into lactate. And excess lactate then leaves the cell, goes into the bloodstream, and is transported to the liver, where through a so-called Cori cycle is converted back into glucose. But let's focus on the pyruvate and the lactate molecules. Pyruvate is C3H3O3. Lactate has 5 hydrogen atoms instead of 3, and the additional 2 are attached to the central carbon atom. Just to compare this to lactic acid has 6 hydrogen atoms total. The additional hydrogen atom is part of the carboxylic acid group. So let's zoom in on that pyruvate and lactate conversion. How is pyruvate turned into lactate? It requires a couple of things. One being NADH, nicotinamine adenine dinucleotide, and a proton. And with the help of the enzyme lactate dehydrogenase, pyruvate is converted to lactate, which in essence has absorbed the 2 additional hydrogens. thereby oxidizing the NADH into NAD+. Let's put this in perspective because this slide only shows it to you for one pyruvate molecule turning into one lactate molecule. Imagine 10 hydrogen ions being released as a result of ATP hydrolysis. That theoretically would mean that 10 lactate molecules are able to absorb all these hydrogen ions. That kind of sounds like lactate serves as a buffering ability. Back to our muscle requiring ATP, which results in a lot of H pluses, which leads to muscle acidosis. The main takeaways of this instructional video is that muscle burn is not caused by lactate or lactic acid buildup. Muscle burn is instead caused by acid, H+ ions, during intense exercise when oxygen levels are low. The acid H+ ions, protons, are released when ATP is used for energy, when ATP is hydrolyzed. Lactate therefore plays a contributing role in absorbing these hydrogen ions so as to combat muscle acidosis. I hope this video was helpful in helping you understand what causes muscle acidosis. If you wish to learn more about metabolism, check out my earlier video that deals with the ATP misconception, as well as a video in which I explain several College Board AP Biology questions, all related to ATP and different intensities of exercise. Thank you very much for watching. Bedankt voor het kijken. Tot ziens and see you in the next video.